in this country is when we talk about assimilation, which is really the most hilarious thing in the world. When people say you got to assimilate, so why all y'all white folks love Chinese food? I mean, think about it. 80% of the people who listen to hip hop are white kids. So what the hell does assimilate actually mean? It actually means nothing. See, what it means is we need you to accept our values and how we now view America. How many of you saw the movie called The Good Shepherd? Trust me, there's more people who actually saw it than anywhere else. All right. It's called The Good Shepherd. Directed by Robert De Niro, starring Matt Damon. I want you to go to YouTube, and I want you to type in Joe Pesci, Matt Damon, The Good Shepherd. I want you to type in Joe Pesci, Pesci, Matt Damon, Damon, and The Good Shepherd. There's a scene in The Good Shepherd that says everything that you need to know and understand about America and how it is viewed. In the scene, Matt Damon is playing this skull and bones wasp working for the CIA. In many ways, beginnings of the CIA, how they were created. And he's going to meet with Joe Pesci, who's playing the mobster, and they're trying to get Pesci and the mob to kill Castro, which actually happened in real life. So Pesci says, let me ask you a question. He said, Italians, we got our family in the church. He said, the Irish got this. He used the N-word describing black people. He said, they at least got their music. He said, what do y'all have? And the Matt Damon character says, we've got the United States of America. The rest of you are just visiting. I was watching that movie and I said, damn! Hit pause. I want you to think about that statement. Now you may say, man, that's the movie. No, that's not fiction. That's why when people are folks like, you can leave. Your ass a visitor too. Just saying. The only people who can really say this ours, Native Americans. I'm just saying. Go back to where you came from. I didn't choose to leave. And what does that even mean? What they're saying is, how dare you complain about anything in this country, because isn't this the greatest nation in the world? Isn't this the only nation that God has blessed? That's literally the mentality. I've been on television. They're like, Roland, I know you're criticizing this, but can you say anything good about America? I'm going, damn, you that needy? Just watch Fox News 10 minutes. I mean, I know it will literally hurt your brain to watch for 10 minutes. Trust me. And I did Bill O'Reilly's show several times, and that was a trip because Bill O'Reilly never raised his voice at me. I think he looked at the camera like, I'm gonna leave this one alone because him different. See, there's a reason Tucker and Laura and Sean will not call me. In fact, I had some friends who were trying to get me to debate Sean Hannity for the longest. They were literally like, no, you need to have him on. And so Sean Hannity had this ridiculous so-called debate with Al Sharpton in New York at Sharpton's conference. And so I showed up. And so I was standing off to the side. And so he came off, and someone was like, yeah, Sean, you wish you had Roland on. He's like, well, he starts stuttering. See, when they start stuttering, it's sort of like, you come home, and your parents like, where you been? You're lying. Sean starts stuttering, And well, you can't you can't come on my show, because you at CNN. I said, but I can do your radio show. He's like, damn, he too smart. Wouldn't call. Neil Bort's conservative radio talk show was dogging me one day on the air. Somebody hit me to say Neil Bort's is dogging you, so I called his ass. Then I tweeted him. I was like, Neil, I heard you talking about me. What? I said, you know what? I'm not going to be on the phone. I will fly to Atlanta and sit across from you in the studio. Punk ass never called. And Neil actually went to Texas A&M. He didn't graduate. So I happened to go to a football game, and they had, the president had this luncheon. They would have this big luncheon, so they invited us, and we were all sitting there. And they were like, "Oh, Roland's Neil Bortz." I was like, "Oh, it's Neil." I was, he was like, "Well, Roland, how you doing?" I was like, "I'm fine. You gonna call a brother?" Oh, yeah, he was. I was like, I said, "Come on, you can call me. I am a graduate." Every time he talked trash, I was like, "So which one of us graduated, Neil?" But see, that's the whole deal. They're actually scared to take on the folks who can embarrass them with actual knowledge, which is why you must be fully armed with knowledge to understand what you're up against. When I'm having these conversations about folks like, well, I don't understand all these black people on welfare. You do know this thing called corporate welfare. When Colin Powell spoke of that at the Republican National Convention, they booed him at the convention. I said, oh, but y'all don't want to talk about that. I said, I'm sorry, you want to talk about the subsidies that Iowa farmers get not to farm? I said, that's federal money as well. Under Trump, $25 billion was given to farmers, largely in Wisconsin and Iowa and Illinois. I said, y'all don't say a damn thing about that. I said, but you tripping on food stamps, which really ain't even food stamps anymore. It's a card. I said, how is it in a nation where we are throwing away more food every single day, you're complaining about people who can't even eat? I said, how can you be pro-life in this country, but then you don't give a damn about the people who are dying of starvation, but you pro-life? See, in order to fight, you've got to be armed. You've got to be fully prepared, and you got to learn to do battle. See, my whole deal, when I was at CNN, they called my agent. They were like, you tell Roland, it's just a television debate. I'm like, no. I said, when I go on TV, I'm here to put your ass in a body bag. Ask Chris Christie what happened 3 weeks ago on ABC. He's still walking like this because I put both of my feet in his big behind. Because I'm not going to sit there and watch and praise you for giving a speech calling out Trump when you wanted that man to get reelected, and you think I'm just going to ignore what you did. No, it's not going to happen. What we are dealing with, we are in the midst of a literal war, and folks are walking around as if they're playing in a field of daisies. What you are witnessing right now is a war. They are playing for keeps. This is not fake. This is real. Understand, when they redraw the lines, they will be redrawn and will be locked in for the next decade. That means until there's another census a decade from now, and depending upon who's in the White House, they will then control how the census is conducted. Under Trump and Republicans, they said, no, we're not going to count everybody, because they knew what the outcome was going to be. That's literally what's going on right now. This whole debate, how many of y'all a year ago had ever heard of critical race theory? Three people. How many of y'all right now have heard of critical race theory? Do y'all want to know what happened? How that happened? Why it happened? Because they said we need something that's going to excite and incite white voters. They are all, that's why now the whole attack on woke, everything, oh, woke this, woke that. Hell, they trashed woke so much you didn't want to use woke because they just destroyed it. But it was by design. And Christopher Rufo, one of the folks who was leading, said, we want, anytime diversity comes up, DEI, equity, inclusion to come up, we want them to think critical race theory. You got nutcases showing up at school board meetings. I mean, the superintendents go saying, we don't teach critical race theory. 200 speakers talk about stop teaching critical race theory. They're like, we don't teach it. Understand what they're actually trying to do. They literally want anything that deals with diversity and race and education not to be taught. Stop it, cut it out. Pass the bill in Oklahoma, passing bills in Texas. That is the game here. And so it's to group anything under that banner to completely shut it down. Oh, y'all should stop teaching white kids to hate themselves. What they define as teaching white kids to hate themselves is teaching actual history. Not teaching somebody to hate themselves. It's what's factual. This happened. I'm not about to debate a traitor like Robert E. Lee, who was a loser, who lost, who was a notorious slave owner. Oh, you want me to treat him like a hero? Hell no. Well, no, why can't you just accept these symbols? No. Not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. Because the anger is that now, if you black and Latino or Asian, Native American, you actually now have votes and a voice, and you now have voting power. And see, when we talk about these whole things, I mean, do understand that they're like, oh, you're attacking all white people. Did y'all see the hearing the other day on Capitol Hill, where one of the dumbest senators in America, Ted Cruz, was questioning this lawyer, and he goes, so are you saying that voter ID in Texas is racist? Then he goes, she answers, and then he goes, so you're saying the whole state of Texas is racist? It's like, no, I didn't say that. And it's like, dude, we know the cute game that you playing. But it was stupid. And she was like, no, it was only 5 courts that actually said that was racial discriminatory intent when you passed the voter ID law, and there were 5 different federal courts. So yeah, it's not just me. That's real. We have to acknowledge when you talk what laws are being passed and how they are negatively impacting certain people. And see, do understand, if you are not African American sitting in this room, do understand that the very laws that were passed, you are a direct beneficiary of. If you are a non-black woman, stand up. I'm gonna give you, just stand up. Just stand up. I ain't gonna make you like run a lap or something. Just stand up. Okay. How many of you, who can tell me what Title IX is? Title IX. No, don't sit down. Don't sit down. No, don't sit down. Don't sit down. Who can tell me, anybody, what Title IX is? Now, I want y'all to stay standing. Yes, go ahead. Nope, not about sexual assault. Title IX. What's your major? Public health. What's your major? Nursing. Huh? Damn, a lot of nursing in there. Huh? Social work. Nursing. Damn, I got a non-nurse. Cool, got it. Pre-med, got it. So just raise your hand and you just stay standing. How many of you want to go to graduate school, be a dentist, be a doctor, med doctor, all that sort of stuff? Title IX is the reason you're allowed to do so. Title IX has been framed as, oh, that's how we got women's sports. No. Title IX was passed in 72 that opened up the professional schools for women to become doctors, lawyers, engineers, all the professions. That was Title IX. Can somebody tell me where Title IX comes from? Title IX is a provision, 64 Civil Rights Act. So if you are a woman, whether you're black, whether you're Native American, white, age, doesn't matter what you are the beneficiary of the work of black folks who got the 1964 Civil Rights Act passed. Take a seat. Y'all can take a seat. I wanted to walk you through that so you can understand what happens when certain groups are able to achieve civil rights gains that don't just benefit them. If you are let's say, okay, who's from another culture, another language? Let's say you vote for another language, you speak another language, stand up. So, another language. Okay, so follow me here. Your background, where you from? Your background, where you from? You. I ain't talking to her, you. I'm gonna hit you with this microphone. Background, where you from? You're from India, okay? Mexico. China. If people who are Chinese Americans and they vote in their native language, or they Mexican American vote in their native language, how are they able to vote in their native language? No, not rhetorical. I'm asking you. Right, if they have something that's in their language, and what is that? But what is it? What's the document? It's a ballot. How were they able to get that? Do you know? Who knows? Who knows? Yep. Yep. Which one? Precisely. If you get to vote in your native language, might want to thank black people, 1965 Voting Rights Act. Take a seat. The reason I'm walking you through this is because people are one more, okay. Who in here, who is disabled? Okay, they can define it for themselves. I got it. She raised her hand, so got it. Now, American Disabilities Act. You know about it? You know a little bit about it. How did that become law? Don't know. American with Disabilities Act was created as law, as a provision, 1964 Civil Rights Act. If you're seeing changes in buildings and code because of that law passed in 1996, might want to thank black people, because that was the 1964 Civil Rights Act. How many people in here supportive of gay marriage? What was the legal foundation of that Supreme Court decision? No, the legal foundation. That's the case. The legal basis. The Equal Protection Clause in the 14th Amendment. What is the 14th Amendment? There were three laws passed, three amendments that were passed consecutively. Say it again. Say it again. 13th, speak up loud. 13th through the 15th. They were passed during what period? Huh? After the Civil War, what was the period called? Reconstruction. Those are called the Reconstruction Amendments. The 14th Amendment has been used in some of the most significant legal cases in America because of the Equal Protection Clause. That was a direct byproduct of the end of slavery and passing laws to benefit African Americans. And so when we're talking about the battles that African Americans are engaged in 2021, then we cannot ignore the reality of how every single person sitting in this room has been a beneficiary of the very laws that Black folks were dying for and protesting during that period. Brown versus Board of Education, Brown 1 and Brown 2, directly impacts every student today. The law wasn't just a Black law, but the legal battle was led by African Americans. So what I'm laying out to you, when you are seeing these fights and these battles, and when you're seeing folks protesting at school boards, when you're seeing them at City Hall and state legislature, and you're sitting there saying, man, it's a group of African Americans, you might want to think back, man, if it were not for a similar group in 1960 and 61, 62, 63, 64, 65. If you right now are living in a neighborhood that is not restricted when it comes to covenants, who knows what a covenant is? Who knows what a racial, give me a non-Black person who knows what a covenant, tell me what a covenant is. I'm gonna walk on this side of the aisle. Anybody? In America, there were restrictive covenants that were in real estate deeds that said you cannot sell this house to somebody Black. That was the law. Those covenants were struck down. They were struck down, but they continued until the passage of the 1968 Fair Housing Act. So if you are living if you live in a neighborhood, y'all one of the few families that's not white, thank God for the 68 Fair Housing Act. Now let me also tie in the reality of housing and wealth in America. Most Americans, their wealth comes from home ownership. Part of the problem in America, when you had covenants, when you had deed restrictions, when you had redlining, one of the reasons you have a wealth gap in America today is because African Americans were not allowed to own their homes. And if they did own their homes, then they were not able to resell them at fair market value. So therefore, somebody white could resell their home at $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 more, buy them a new home, invest the money that they saved, that they earned from the sale of the home, excess capital. Typically, an African American, if they resold the home, there was virtually no resale advantage. So you look at someone today and go, well, I need to understand their economic situation directly tied to covenants, deed restrictions, redlining that we're still fighting today, which is why I use the phrase technically full American. See, because if we were full Americans, you wouldn't need an EEOC. If we were full Americans, you wouldn't need the same type laws. What I'm laying out to you is that the battle that we are seeing right now with African Americans in the United States is nothing more but a part of the continuum of what it means to be Black in this country. That's what this means. Frederick Douglass said, "Power concedes nothing without a demand, never have, never will." He then gave this admonition before he died: agitate, agitate, agitate. I was talking to Tim Madigan. Tim and I worked together at the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Tim is a brilliant writer. And Tim, born and raised in, he said, I think I said Tim was in Iowa. It was somewhere else with a whole bunch of white people. That's what he told me. Yeah, we did an interview, and I forgot. He hit me up. He said, I wasn't born in Iowa. He said, but thanks for the shout out. So I'll find the email to figure out where it was Minnesota. One of them places where ain't that many of us. I know Prince was there, but that was it. So Tim said he grew up. He said, look, I didn't see black people. Because what we have to understand is that the reality is most of us are still living in racially segregated neighborhoods. See, when I say look at this room, this is actually what is called a voluntary situation, meaning you had no control over who else showed up in this room. But I want y'all to do something for the next week. I want you to I want you to write down every day. Who did I eat breakfast with today, lunch with today, and dinner with? We have a lot of people who say, oh, we're culturally diverse. I've got friends of all races and creeds. Who you invite to your house? Who your parents invite to your house? And I'm not just talking to non-black people. Black people largely talk to black people. See, we are actually lying to ourselves in this country about how wonderful and racially dynamic we are and how, oh my God, we just all get along. Stop lying. Because if people actually assess their lives and start asking, who do I actually spend time with? I had a young lady, I was at a National Association of Black Journalists conference, and there was a young lady, she came up to me and she says, I got to talk to you. She said, I always hear you talking about how you enjoy Texas A&M. And she said, but I got some problems, I was like, okay, what's the issue? She said, how do you deal with it? You go into Sabisa, a cafeteria, and you walk in and it's a group of white students and they're eating together. And I was like, sit down. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, take your tray. Say, anybody sitting here? Sit down. I said, so you want white students to do what you don't want to do. I said, has it dawned on you that as an African-American student, most of the African-Americans who come to Texas A&M also come from largely black schools, black neighborhoods, went to all black churches? I said, so when they come here, people naturally migrate, another word for segregate, I said, to folks who they know where they're from. I said, you can't ask students to do what you are unwilling to do. I said, it never dawned on her that she could actually go sit with them. I was like, what's the problem? See, that's where we are. If we want to truly change the country, then we've got to have folks who understand that it won't happen with the microwave. Folks talk about, oh, this post George Floyd, oh, the corporations committed $50 billion and all this stuff. You know why they did that? That wasn't because black people were protesting. They looked at us and said, oh shit, these white people are protesting. And I was fine. I had no problem seeing largely white-led protests. I said, good. But you got to come back next week. And the following week. So what happened last week? Senator Cory Booker announced that he was pulling out negotiations with Senator Tim Scott for the George Floyd Justice Act. Here's my question. Where do white people go? There were hundreds of thousands and millions of people across the world protesting the death of George Floyd. Where everybody at when the bill didn't pass? Can somebody show me the impromptu mass protest? Why am I saying that? Because that 1964 Civil Rights Act does not get passed. if folk only showed up for 2 or 3 protests for 2 months. Jimmy Lee Jackson, who knows who that is? Who knows who Jimmy Lee Jackson is? We know who George Floyd is. Jimmy Lee Jackson was killed in Selma after a protest, and that's what spawned the Bloody Sunday March. We have history in this country. George Floyd was not the first person who was killed that actually led to social change in America. Emmett Till, Mississippi, August 28th, 1954. 1955. Folks, that's our history. What I'm saying to you is, if we're going to talk about how do we radically remake America, and yes, I'm using the word radically remake for a reason, it's because it is going to require everybody to put some skin in the game and not have the same folk who are historically out there trying to demand change actually making it happen. Folks should be flooding the phone lines of Senator Tim Scott and Senator Lindsey Graham and Senator Mitch McConnell and say, how in the hell y'all said all that stuff, but you didn't do anything in passing the bill? Folks should be challenging President Joe Biden right now, saying you had 300 meetings dealing with infrastructure. When are you going to have 300 meetings with senators on the George Floyd Justice Act? We are not going to change America by folks just going on about their business, being happy, being cool, and said, hey, it's really not my thing, because you cannot be the beneficiary of somebody else's work if you're unwilling to now step up when it's your turn. When we took action with the National Association of Black Journalists against Jeff Zucker at CNN, because they had no black executive producers, no black vice presidents, no black senior vice presidents, no black executive vice presidents, no black direct reports, we said, oh, no, hell no, that's not going to happen. Not when you used to have folks in those jobs. And so we began to mobilize folks, and I called Bernard Shaw. Bernard Shaw was the main anchor for CNN, legendary anchor for CNN. And I said, Bernie, you gave a speech at our convention in Las Vegas years ago, and I want to use that clip. Bernie said this to me, Roland: every generation has its turn. It's now your turn. I said, bet. And I know some of you are sitting here looking at me right now saying, man, but you don't understand. I'm a college student. I'm a first time graduate in my family. I'm trying to get paid. Write this down. Polaroid revolutionary workers. Write it or type it. I want you to go look that up. How many of you heard of the divestment movement against the racist South African apartheid? Okay, y'all killed me with history. Okay. How many of y'all heard Nelson Mandela? Okay. What led to Nelson Mandela getting released? It was the international campaign against the racist regime in South Africa that was led by the divestment effort. In America, we have created this false narrative that, oh, it was Harvard and Yale and major institutions pulling their money out of companies that invested in businesses that were doing business in South Africa. That's a lie. Folks like, oh, it was when artists refused to perform concerts in South Africa. No, that's not where it started. There was a brother named Ken Williams. And I'm giving you these names because I need you've got to go beyond what you're learning in class and because that's his story. You've got to learn history. There's a brother named Ken Williams who was working for Polaroid, and he walked into the building and he saw this thing called a passbook. And he looked at it and he realized that this passbook essentially was like a passport. Polaroid was responsible for the photographs in these passbooks. Well, these passbooks is what Black people had to carry in South Africa to show their papers. And Ken said, this simply is not right. So Ken began an effort inside of Polaroid to actually stop Polaroid from selling these passbooks in South Africa. They were like, hell no, we making money. So Ken enlisted a sister named Carolyn Hunter. Carolyn Hunter was a recent college graduate, 26 years old, was a chemistry major, first time college student. And she said, this ain't right. They began to protest. Carolyn's mama said, baby, what are you doing? You got a good job. You just graduated from college. What are you doing? These white folks gonna fire you from your good job. Carolyn said, mama, I cannot be silent and watch what is going on and do nothing. Ken and Carolyn and others then created the Polaroid Revolutionary Workers Party. They were the first corporate group to call for a divestment from South Africa. When Nelson Mandela died, I had Carolyn on my show. Carolyn and Ken later got married. They were fired from Polaroid. I had on the show Ron Dellums, now deceased. Ron was a longtime member of Congress. People credit Ron Dellums because he was the one who authored the bill to divest from the sanctions against South Africa that Ronald Reagan vetoed, that was overwritten by Congress. So folks say Ron Dellums, it was Ron Dellums and his bill. No, Ron Dellums wasn't even aware of this divestment campaign until Ken and Carolyn and the Polaroid Revolutionary Workers came to meet with him and members of the Congressional Black Caucus, including John Conyers and others, and they informed them of this campaign, and that's how the Congressional Black Caucus got behind the divestment effort. Carolyn could have easily said, I got my nice job, I'm gonna be quiet, but she said no. It took 20 plus years, but if Ken Williams and Carolyn Hunter, if they did not actually make a move on that, folks, you would not have seen that thing take off across the world. Now, here's the crazy part. I was aware of the divestment movement. So I'm in New York City. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. I can't sleep, so I'm watching this damn documentary on PBS. And I'm sitting here and I'm watching and they telling this story. And I was like, wow, that's a hell of a story. Then they showing Carolyn. I was like, damn, she looked familiar. And I'm listening because they kept talking about Carolyn Hunter, Carolyn Hunter, Carolyn Hunter. I was like, damn, she looked familiar. So then the next morning, I sent a text. I was like, Lisette, is this your mama? And she said, yes, that's my mama. What tripped me out was I had gone to Martha's Vineyard for a book signing, and I actually stayed at Carolyn's house. I was their guest. Why am I unpacking that? Because she was 26. When King got involved in Montgomery, he was 25. John Lewis, 18. We talk about these folks today, and we act like they were 55, 60 years old at the time. No, they weren't. They actually were young and getting involved. What I'm laying out to you is you have to decide right now what type of America, not that you want to live in, but what type of America you want your children's children to live in. Because that's what all of these folks were doing. Many of them knew they were never going to be beneficiaries of their fights, but they said somebody is going to benefit it down the road, and it may not be me, but it's going to be my children or my children's children. So what I'm saying to you is this was not about, oh, what the condition of African Americans in 2021. No, this was about speaking to what is the condition of America in 2021, and what do we want this country to look like and be about. What we have to understand right now, we have a vicious assault on democracy that we have never seen to this extent, and how it is being weaponized by one party. These audits that are being called for, all these different things, the changing of voting laws, they are a direct result of how black folks and other people of color and young white folks voted in 2008, 2012, 2016, and 2020. There's a reason why Donald Trump kept talking about people cheating in Fulton County, Atlanta, black, Philadelphia, black, Detroit, black, Milwaukee. There's a reason why there was a partial recount in Wisconsin only in Milwaukee. And so when you saw January 6th, what you saw, somebody asked me, I was interviewed, they kept saying, Roland, oh my God, all the new people, they were like, January 6th, what was going through your mind when it happened? And I basically echoed Malcolm X with JFK. I said, I was glad. And my publicist was like, Roland, you can't say that. I'm like, first of all, I can, because I pay you. You can't tell me what the hell to say. See, she was like, no, Roland, you shouldn't say that. I was like, no. I said, I was glad. Because now everybody now gets to see what the hell we've been trying to tell y'all about these crazy deranged folk in this country who will follow this crazy man and try to overthrow the government. And they so-called about Blue Lives Matter, they said damn the cops that day. What that showed you is what we're dealing with. The very people who you saw trying to storm the U.S. Capitol are the very people who are wearing robes who are judges. There were cops, members of the U.S. Armed Forces in that group. There were CEOs in that group. There were state legislators in that group. What I'm trying to get you to understand is that what we are seeing is an attack on this nation becoming a nation more majority people of color. By 2043, 53% of America will be non-white, 47% will be white. That's what you are seeing. You are seeing that level of attack. And I need you to understand they do not play by any set of rules. Their rule is called power. You either have it or you don't. You either use it or you lose it. And I don't know what in the hell these Democrats in D.C. are doing by playing games, because I can guarantee you, if the script was flipped, they will use that power as best that they can. And so what I need us to understand, every person sitting in here is going to have to make an individual decision, and that is, are you willing to say, I can't be bothered with all this stuff? And if you do, you're going to look up one day and you're going to say, what the hell happened? And the answer is, you chose to stay silent. And if you stay silent, don't say a damn thing when this thing flips, because you can only blame yourself. We must be thinking the same way those SNCC workers. Who knows what SNCC is? Okay. Everybody back here who not black, I'm gonna need you, write this down. SNCC, S-N-C-C. Student, y'all are not writing or typing, and I know you're not remembering, or are you recording what I'm saying? Yes, I'm giving you homework, but I'm giving you for a reason, because what I'm laying out to you is the foundation of how you're even sitting in this room. SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. Founded Shaw University, 1960. I want you to look up Ella Baker. Barbara Ransby has an amazing book on Ella Baker. Ella Baker is one of the greatest organizers you ain't never heard of. I mean, absolutely flat out amazing. I want you to go to YouTube and look at the interview that I did with Dr. James Lawson. How many of you saw John Lewis's funeral? Y'all might remember Obama's eulogy. The real eulogy was the one Jim Lawson gave. Who was Jim Lawson? Write down James Lawson. That's what he goes by. He was the founder of the Nashville movement. Who taught those SCLC and SNCC workers? James Lawson. Who was the man who called MLK to come to Memphis to stand with the sanitation workers? It was James Lawson. Still living in Los Angeles. Go watch the interview that I did with him. It was unbelievable. Fred Gray, still living, 91 years old, was the attorney for Rosa Parks. He was the co-founder and the co-creator of the Montgomery Improvement Association. You have to get the Black Star Network app. That's the only place I have the interview. I didn't put it anywhere else. Watch the interview. What I'm laying out to you is, why is this important? Because when you listen to Jim Lawson talk about what they did, you're now understanding how we got to this point. Those were young people. This man was so anti-war because he was a seminary student. They gave passes to seminary students not to enter the draft. He said, damn that. He went to federal prison as opposed to using that pass. That's how much he was against the war. These are the people many of us know nothing about. You should read Howard Zinn, Zinn, his book on the abolitionists. He was one of the adult advisors of SNCC. Amazing book. You should read that book. You should read The Making of Revolutionaries. Okay, what I'm laying out to you are individuals who created the modern America. This was called African Americans in Contemporary United States. No. People talk about the founding fathers. When Congressman John Lewis died, when Reverend C.T. Vivian died, Reverend Jim Lowry died, there was a photo of Vivian, Lowry, Andrew Young, John Lewis, and Eric Holder texted me. He said, these were the founding fathers 2.0. Because what happened prior to 1965, that wasn't democracy. Because until black folks could vote free and fairly, still not the case. Until black women could vote, because when women got the right to vote, that did not include black women. He said that was founding fathers 2.0. So we want to talk about what's the real America. It was not 1776. It was what took place in that 13-year period during the Civil Rights Movement, also called the Black Freedom Movement. It was what took place during that period during the Reconstruction. Read W.E.B. Du Bois' book called Black Reconstruction to understand where we are. We have an opportunity, everybody who is still living and breathing today, to reshape America in the way it should be, not in the way it always has been. There are forces who do not want this America to change. There are forces today who are yelling, my body, my choice over a vaccine, but they will stand for the abortion law that was changed. Now, here's my whole deal. You can be a pro-life all you want to, but don't yell my body, my choice when it comes to the vaccine, but then you have an alternate view. Just like I take offense to Catholic priests saying they are not going to give communion to anybody who supports abortion, but they don't say a damn thing about not giving communion to anybody who supports the death penalty. The Catholic Church is equally against both, yet they are silent about those who vote and accept the death penalty. What I'm saying to you is you have to decide whether or not you are going to be an active participant in reshaping and changing the future of this country, or you're going to leave it up to somebody else to do it. You leave it up to somebody else to do it, then you can't say anything about any direction that it goes because you had a choice. Other folks have made their choice. Now you have to make your choice. So the real question for you leaving here is, what are you prepared to do? Thanks a bunch.
Another one. Ladies and gentlemen, I know we have had a long evening. Thank y'all for your patience, all that good stuff. We got a legend in the house. I don't want to let you go without 5 or 6
So we got some questions
from the floor. I got one to get it started. We got this microphone over here. If you want to line up, we won't do this for long. We'll take 5 or 6 questions.
Rapid fire.
Deborah Woody, I know I want to give you the floor if you want to ask a question, Deborah. But here's one question for you, sir. You've had such a long and distinguished career covering so many hot button topics. I'm going to ask you a light question, and that would be, what would, in your opinion, over the course of your career, what are 2 or 3 newsworthy stories that you thought were so meaningful and significant about the Black experience in America that these are stories that are long about not just this event, but they will carry for decades into the future? By the way, y'all, you can line up over here at the microphone if you have a question. There you go, sir.
Million Man March. Unbelievable day and moment. And I said this directly to Minister Farrakhan. They squandered it. You had 1 million folks who gathered on that day. You had 400,000+ at the 10th anniversary, 200,000 at the 20th anniversary. And that probably was just unbelievable in that they wasted that level of energy. You might ask what I'm talking about. I don't believe in just gathering and then you don't use it for a purpose. You're not doing data collection. You're not driving people. Gathering just for the sake of it, to me, you got to do something with it. Things did happen out of that, but that was sort of driven by different factions, but it could have taken hold in a unique way. I say the dedication of the Mlk Memorial 10 years ago, next month, October 21st, is going to be the 10th anniversary. The Mlk Memorial in Washington, D.C., and this happens every MLK, and I really hope when you do this on this campus, do not make any of your MLK celebrations solely about MLK. Go listen to the speech that he gave when he accepted the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964. He accepted the Peace Prize on behalf of the movement, not himself. So that statue, he is symbolic. He is a representation of the movement. And so the problem in America, we have turned MLK into a civil rights mascot. He is a civil rights bobblehead. We pull him out, we quote him, but we don't read a damn speech other than 2 that he gave. If you want to understand the power of MLK, truly go listen to that speech he gave at Mason Temple, April 3rd, 1968. Read his book, Chaos or Community, Where Do We Go From Here? I will say, I guarantee you I've sold more copies of this book than all the King children combined, because I've talked about this book everywhere I've gone. I guarantee you. But of the 1,000+ books that are in my library, that book is in one of the top 3. And the third one, if you're talking about obviously for African Americans in history, it was being at the center on CNN of the 2008 election for the election of President Obama. That was it. And it was interesting because people were like, oh my God, dude, and when you start crying on television, I start crying. But I'll explain to people, the tears that I had that election night had nothing to do with Obama getting reelected. It actually was when Wolf Blitzer, when we had that huge graphic, President-elect Barack Obama, my first thought, and I said it that night, my first thought wasn't him, wasn't his wife, wasn't his children. It were the Black soldiers who were lynched in their uniforms. That was the first thought I had when he got elected. And that's actually what caused me to shed tears on election night when I thought about that image of Black men in their uniforms who were lynched, of Medgar Evers, who was assassinated in his driveway, a U.S. Army veteran. I thought about the Black people who fought for America when America never loved them back. That's what I thought about. Question.
Hi, I have kind of a two-part question. First of all, given where we are right now with the George Floyd Act and the John Lewis Act, do you see a pathway forward for them to get passed by 2024?
For 2024, the only way it gets passed is if hundreds of thousands of people exert a significant amount of pressure on President Joe Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, and if wherever Kristen Sinema goes, she is met with protesters, wherever Joe Manchin goes, wherever Dianne Feinstein goes, wherever Mark Warner goes. There are more than 2 Democrats who don't want to end the filibuster. They've got to feel heat, constant heat. LBJ, they were like, damn, here come MLK and those guys. It was constant. It was relentless. And I think the problem is people, again, say, all right, we protested for a few months. Oh, okay, we can go back to business as usual. No, that's the only way it happens. Biden and the Democrats must feel that level of heat. Republicans ain't gonna do shit.
Okay. And assuming that neither are passed by 2024, as Black people, what should we do with the Democratic Party at large and Joe Biden?
Well, first of all, you're skipping 2022. You're going 2024, you can't skip the midterm elections. And so that's the question that I've actually posed to Jamie Harrison, head of the brother who has the DNC. I've said that to the White House as well. And I said, let me be clear, y'all gonna have a problem. I said, do understand, you're not gonna be able to come back to Black folks saying, oh, go out and vote in record numbers again during a pandemic to give us more power when you didn't do shit with the power we gave you. I said, you're going to have a problem. And not just Black folks, it's gonna be young white voters as well. You have to, look, why did white evangelicals support Donald Trump with a serious fervor in 2020? Easy, because he put on those right-wing Supreme Court justices who want to overturn Roe v. Wade. He rewarded them. Now, Trump personally, he pro-choice, but he's an opportunist. Fine, I'll give you your judges. Well, he didn't give a damn about that, but he rewarded them. That's what you do. And so it's called a return on investment. And so what's going to happen is you're going to have disaffected people, and they're going to have to make an argument. And I've said to them, don't look at me. Y'all didn't pass it. And don't look for me try to get creative to make it happen. And you're talking about, you got the U.S. Senate races in Ohio. You've got North Carolina. You've got Wisconsin. You've got Val Demings, Congresswoman Val Demings running in Florida. You've got, it's one more, like there are 5. You got Pennsylvania, that open seat as well. You know, they're gonna have to make an argument. You can't come home empty-handed. It's sort of like, again, married man come home late. Your wife like, I know you brought something back. Don't walk your ass in his house empty-handed, or it's gonna be a problem. They can't walk into the house empty-handed. So we'll see what they do.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Hi, Roland. I just want to say I'm a huge fan. I'm kind of starstruck right now, so I'm really excited to see you in person.
Glad to see you.
So I'm Dr. Webb, Colorism Healing. So I create a lot of online content. You're very active in the digital space. You know, you have a daily digital show, you're on Twitter, all the spaces. And so thinking about our current culture and landscape where social media is just a part of our reality. Online apps, it's all just a part of where we're going, and it's not going away. So what is your advice? Could you speak to what is the real potential for social media and the overall fight for social justice? What are its limitations? Where do people take it too far? And just how can we really use it as a tool since it's here to stay?
Well, every medium we have is good or bad. It's all about how you use it. And there are people who use it for good. There are people who use it for bad. I challenge, one of the things that I've said for a long time, and this may be difficult for some people to accept, but I don't think we as African Americans and even non-African Americans, I don't even think white people truly understand the depths and the power of white supremacy and what it has done. And I need people to understand. See, we throw that phrase around very easily without really understanding the depths. I want you to look up. As I told you, look, I spoke at North Carolina State. I didn't realize during my lecture I had announced 14 different books. They did a whole book thing, a book list on all the books I mentioned, and they sent me the link. I was like, damn, I mentioned 14 different books. But it always just happens. I want y'all to go read or listen to MLK's speech that he gave on the Montgomery, Alabama State House steps after the Selma to Montgomery March. And in that speech, he talked about a period after Civil War where poor whites and freed slaves were uniting all across the country, especially North Carolina. Because what happened was, again, if you understand American history, I went through all those laws. When black people have been able to advance with rights, poor whites' quality of life has also risen. So you had this movement where these broke white folks were like, damn, these rich white folks been screwing us too. Yes, broke white and broke black got one thing in common. They broke. So King talks about, and there was a book he mentioned in this speech, and so what happened was he said the bourbon class, rich plantation owners, said, oh, hell no, we cannot have the broke white people aligning with these freed slaves. No, we can't have that. So he says in his speech that they then began to create a wedge. And in his speech, King says, quoting this book, they used media to drive the wedge. And so what did they do? They used media to put in the minds of these poor whites, they're getting stuff and taking it from you. And that hasn't stopped since. So you have to understand you can't play with this thing. Understand when there's a coup anywhere in the world, the first thing they get control of are the guns. Media is always second. It used to be they took over the newspapers, the radio stations. Now they shut the internet off. It's media. The problem I see is that too many people are playing games with media. They don't understand the power of it. If I post some bullshit and it'll get 3,000 comments, but when I post about $322 billion being spent yearly on advertising and black-owned media only getting 0.5 to 1% of the $322 billion, it's 14 comments. Bullshit ain't earning us nothing. This fight could lead to black folks getting billions, no one's commenting. What they don't understand is Instagram and Facebook getting paid off the bullshit. When I'm going after certain companies on social media, they're looking at how many likes, how many comments. If they all of a sudden looked up and on that post when I'm mentioning General Motors or I'm mentioning Pizza Hut or Domino's and they see 2,000 and 3,000 comments and 20, 30,000 likes, I guarantee you they will be on the phone with my sales team in 24 hours. So it's how we use it, how we weaponize it. What do we post? We all have fun. I post golf videos. I had somebody hit me. They were like, I don't follow you to hear about your food selections, the music you love, or movies you watch. I said, I ain't asked your ass to follow me. See, I will come right back at people. Let me just warn y'all right now. Say some silly shit to me on social media. I hit back. And then what gets me is, what trips me out is when you hit back, they get mad. I'm like, your ass open your mouth. Don't swing at me and then get mad when I knock your ass out because you got 28 followers and I got 3.5 million, and now you embarrassed. I'm like, and I tell them, don't say nothing to me. I ain't the one. I cuss, but it's how we use it, and that's the problem. And I warn people, there is absolute power. I've been going at Teddy Riley and Tank over the bullshit they keep posting about the vaccines. I'm like, y'all can sit here. I said, if your ass get a headache today, you gonna go take an Advil. You don't know what the hell's in that Advil. All you want to know is, do I get rid of this damn headache? I said, man, we would stop. Because I understand when I'm watching, and that video the Teddy Riley post has 105,000 views. Yet, when I interviewed Dr. Tyson Bell or Ebony Hilton, or I've had more than 150 COVID, and I've had some of the top Black medical experts in the country, and it's 6, 8, 10,000. I understand the power of that 105,000 and what it's doing and what it's cementing in the minds of people. And so I have long said, when I started off about white supremacy, I've said that Black America desperately needs a reprogramming. What I mean by reprogramming, I want people, and I need people to listen to what I'm saying here. So just like social media, your words matter. When people say, well, it is a Black business, what does that mean? You are actually saying it's second class. Do you realize that I had a brother? This actually happened multiple times. It took everything in me not to strangle the shit out of this dude. This is no lie. He said, man, Ro, man, where you gonna get you a show? I said, dude, this is my TV One show. I said, dude, you do know I'm on TV One every day, 5 days a week, 2 hours a day. He said, no. I know you got your TV One show. I mean a real show. I said, I'm sorry, a real show? He said, yeah, I mean like, CNN, MSNBC. What he's saying is on a white network. And I said, brother, let me ask you a question. I said, do you ever watch Brian Williams on the NBC Evening News? He's like, yeah. I said, you ever happen to watch when he's in Washington, D.C.? He said, yeah. I said, do you realize that Brian Williams, when he's in D.C., sits in the exact same chair I sit in? I said, I don't mean the brand. I mean the exact same chair. He's like, I'm not following. I said, well, you may not realize, but we contract out our studio with NBC News Channel in DC. The cameras that are used when Brian Williams is there are the same cameras that I use. The set is the same. The monitors are the same. We send our video down the fiber optic lines to our facility in Denver. They send theirs down through the control room to New York. So it is the exact facility. So when you say it's not a real show, what are you actually saying? He did not realize that what he was doing was he was diminishing the show because we were on a Black network. That happens constantly in the social media when I will see people who I know, people who I put on TV first. They will retweet, send out to their millions of followers something that Don Lemon said, or something said on The View, or something Joanne Reed said that we discussed 3 weeks earlier. Same thing. So What we have to do is be intentional with how we use social media. What we say, who we support, how we support. Still have fun, but understand that, folks, I'm telling y'all, I just need y'all to, if y'all have never experienced what it's like for somebody to send you an email or a DM and say, what you posted on this day prevented me from taking my life. I have had that experience. I don't play with it because you don't know a given day needs to see that affirmation or whatever you posted. And so that's why it's power in it, is how we use it. Next question.
Congratulations on your 800,000 subscribers. You will reach 1 million. I actually support you twice.
Appreciate it.
Just wanted to ask you, how do we get folks to get beyond chasing the bag and go back, go further and deeper than slavery, because we were enslaved, not slave. How do we get people to understand our connection with what we really are and chasing the bag and have more purpose than just, getting a bigger house, bigger car, career, etc.?
Well, look, this is America. Do understand, okay, I'll ask it this way. Let's see. Who can tell me the one federal agency that shares a lawn with the White House? Treasury. If you want to understand America, White House, power, Treasury, money. But so what is required is, again, history versus history. We have all been indoctrinated and trained to only define our history through a certain lens. The number of Americans who don't even own a passport. I remember when I wore a caftan, and I wear all kinds of different outfits. And let me be real clear, I don't give a shit what nobody think. I don't. I was rocking me and Steve Harvey and I, we kept battling this battle at Essence over pocket squares. And I said, Steve, I got something for your ass this year. This, I think it was like 2012. I said, I had my sister, she's an amazing designer artist. I heard her design some feather pocket squares. They were like, your ass got some feather pocket squares. They said, trash. Michelle over there playing with the feather pocket squares. I turned to him, I said, see, this wasn't for you. I said, that's why I wore it. I said, I ain't never dressed for no dude. He's like, man, come on, take this picture. So I wore some caftans made. I've been in Ghana a couple of times. I'll be next year. I've been invited to go to Dubai. Been invited to go to Liberia. And these folks like, man, what the hell you doing wearing a dress? I said, anybody who says I'm wearing a dress clearly don't have a passport. I'm like, you know what the hell a caftan is? And folks were talking trash, and some other guy like, man, I couldn't wear that because folks be saying stuff. Let me be as frank as possible. Roland gives 0. Any kids in here? I'm a hold that one. I give 0. I don't care. You're dealing with natural American ignorance. So the only way to change that is to enlighten people, which is why the previous question, use the platform to drive the information, to share it. Folks, I didn't realize that. That's how you use the power of the platforms. It's about teaching. Maya Angelou told me that a month before she died. I was interviewing her, They had a party. They unveiled a portrait at the National Portrait Gallery. Then they had a celebration for her birthday at the African Museum, Smithsonian African Art Museum. So I'm interviewing her, and I said, I said my brother and two sisters are teachers. She says, "No, you are a teacher." And I was like, "No, I'm not." She says, "Oh no, I watch you." She says, "You teach when you're on television." And so it's looking at what you do in a different way, because that's the piece. And so I can't tell you that, hundreds of thousands of people who come up to me who said, "I didn't know a damn thing about politics, but I watched you religiously in 2008 when Obama ran." And then people came up to me who now are in public office, who never thought about it, but they said, "You taught me politics." And so it's how you use the medium. That's how you do it. You use it to teach. You reach and teach, and you keep doing it. And then you don't worry about, and this is the last point. So I've been places where we had this many chairs and there were 40 people. And people like, "Man, this is a doggone shame. This room should have been packed." I said, "Calm down." I said, "I don't talk to empty chairs." I said, "If 40 people in the room, I talk to the 40. I said, if 5 people in the room, I talk to the 5. I said, because I can have 500 people in a room and 490 not give a damn. But you give me 30 who give a damn, then we could take down a whole lot of stuff." I said, "That's biblical." I said, "You go read the Bible." God's like, "It's too many of y'all. Whoever slams their head in the water versus who drinks the water while still looking up, send them away." That's how you look at it. Use every moment to teach. Question?
Got a quick one for you. Juneteenth as a national holiday,
Nope.
significant or not?
Hell yeah, significant. Hell yes. All these dumbasses talking about, man, all they gave us was Juneteenth. That is the dumbest, stupidest, most ridiculous, asinine, ass backwards stuff I've ever heard in my life. Juneteenth is the only event that actually marks what happened, slavery in America. It is the only one. Why in the hell am I going to oppose an annual event that forces America to have to learn about slavery? The problem with all these idiots is they tripping on no, it's what you do with the holiday. That's the problem. And so I'm sitting there going, don't sit. And I told some folks, and people like, "Man, I don't give a damn about this." I said, "Well, kiss my ass, from Texas, we do." And so that's the deal. And so people like, "All we've gotten is a holiday." Like, okay. And I said, "Well, bring your sorry ass to DC and let's see you lobbying on some other stuff versus just sitting your behind on Twitter complaining." See, that's the whole deal. Think about it. Juneteenth is a national holiday. That means now and forevermore. Every damn June 19th. And you know what we as black people, first of all, you know how special and extra we are. MLK was a day. That shit became a weekend. Then it became a week. MLK's birthday is damn near a month now. They have MLK events on January 30th. The holiday was 2 weeks early. I do MLK. Do you realize Hollywood now, when they put movies out, they have critical weekends. They have 4th of July weekend, Memorial Day weekend. They got different. MLK weekend is now a major weekend to drop movies. That's what it's turned into. So it's expanded. So my whole deal is now you have an opportunity to use it to reach and teach. But the thing though is what kind of programs that we then do. That's why I can't stand most of these Black History Month programs and these MLK programs, because they're limiting. I said, look, stop playing The bottom of his I Have a Dream speech, if you're going to ignore the top 2/3. That was a radical economic speech. Don't play the final 2 minutes, the final 2.5 minutes of his April 3rd, 1968 speech, when that entire 43 minutes, 16-second speech was amazing. And I said, why don't you play the part when he talked about redistributing the pain and economic boycotts? I said, and economic reciprocity. I said, no, play that part. Don't play I've been to the mountaintop. I said, play what he said before he went to the mountaintop. Don't play the Just the Drum Major. Don't just play that one. I said, play the one when he got the Nobel Peace Prize. I said, that's the thing. What we've done is we've limited MLK to 3 speeches. So we're not expanding our knowledge. Use MLK birthday. That's why I mentioned, if y'all don't understand Ella Baker, if you don't read about Ella Baker, there is no MLK. There is no SCLC. There is no SNCC. She goes from the progressive movements in New York to the field secretary for the NAACP to SCLC to SNCC through the women's movement. That's Ella Baker. But again, we have to expand our knowledge, and so that's how we have to use it. And so I say the challenge is on when Juneteenth comes up. What do we do with it? The power with it. How do we educate? How do we walk people through? How do we get them to understand these things and deal with them? Go.
Speaking of Juneteenth, and we have a lot of young people here, can you kind of go through and get people to understand that this is actually a continuation of the struggle for freedom? And what I hope for Juneteenth is that for us to be able to say that we have passed the Voting Rights Act. And if that is not done, then that should move us to action that in 2022, since y'all did not do this, we don't turn this heat up from June till then. So could you please talk about...
What people don't understand in Texas, Juneteenth was not used by Black people in Texas just to have barbecues. Juneteenth, there were voter registration drives around Juneteenth. There were Black economic empowerment initiatives around Juneteenth. Juneteenth has been used in Texas this way. If you go to, and I'll double check to see if my guy broke it out. Gerald Horn. Gerald has a plethora of books. Is amazing. I did not realize until Gerald Horn came on the show that when Granger arrived at Galveston, there was a battalion of several thousand Black troops who came with him. I did not know that until Gerald came on. Gerald was doing his research around Juneteenth, and he said, so think about that. They were afraid that the white Southerners were going to rebel, so they came with several thousand Black troops just to let them know, don't act a fool.
And then they went on further.
So since celebration of Juneteenth, it has always been used by African Americans in Texas as a day of empowerment, education, political activism, and that's how it also began to spread across the country. That's why DC has Emancipation Day. That's why you see it in North Carolina and South Carolina, and that's why it became a much broader thing outside the state of Texas. And so it was an empowerment day, not just don't turn it into a mattress sale day and have barbecues and parties. And step shows.
And it's local organizers, not necessarily.
Everything is local. Everything is local. Everything is local. Final 2 questions.
Roland, we can take these, but we had one last thing we were going to do real quick. So.
Okay, what you gonna do?
If you can answer quick, and if we can.
Okay, go ahead.
Quick. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Imani Pettiford. I worked this summer for Freedom School. It was started by Ella Baker, and we go through all of that. But I wanted to ask you, how can we as people incite more more cooperation and support in the groups or the organizations that are already existing?
Here's the deal. Here's the deal. This is what people have to understand. There's been no movement in the history of the world that started with group consensus. None. Here's the first thing. Stop thinking, let's have a big group meeting to then plan what we want to do. That's a waste of your damn time. It is. I don't do those meetings. This is what you do. Send the invite out. Whoever the hell show up, work with them. If 8 people show up, and see, this is basic math. You do not have to be a math major to understand what I'm about to tell y'all. If 8 people show up, tell those 8 to invite 1 person for the next meeting. That means it's going to be 16 people at the next meeting. Ask those 16 to invite 1 person to the 3rd meeting. Now it's 32. Tell those 32 to invite 1 person to the next meeting. Now you 4 months in. Now you at 64. The 5th meeting, you're now at what? 128. In 5 months, you went from 8 to 128. Don't waste my time tripping on who didn't show up. That's how you start. Too many times we're waiting for everybody to show up. If you wait for everybody to show up, you're gonna be waiting.
Hello, my name is Solomon Graham. I'm a student here at UTA and I'm studying business right now. And my question is kind of a 2-part question. It's, what is your thoughts on how African Americans can build each other together in entrepreneurship and business? And do you think that we would be able to build a Black Wall Street today or Black Silicon Valley today that we can build and maintain and grow and push to?
First thing is you gotta be intentional in terms of how you spend resources. Simple as that. See, a lot of people talk about Black Wall Street. They don't realize Black Wall Street was not just in Tulsa. There were Black Wall Streets all across the country. First of all, let's just stop here. We have to understand Black Wall Street was a result of we could only go certain places. We couldn't go. You had no choice to create all the things that you needed because white folks wouldn't let you in. So we created those businesses. Now you have options, which now means you must be intentional in how you do it. I go back to what the brother who said we got to get a real show. I go back to white supremacy when people go, man, I tried a Black electrician once. I'm like, well, hell, you done tried 3 white electricians, that shit still broke. Literally, as African Americans, we have a different mindset of, well, I tried it once, as opposed to call 2. So that's how we have to think. It's called being intentional. That's what it is. We have to understand that if I have resources, who am I spending the resources with? Now, folk might say, well, that's not right, but it happens every single day. People decide every day who they want to spend money with. When I was building out my studio, I said, I am going to use a Black lighting company. Why? Because he don't get called by other people. The guy who built my set is a Black set designer. He doesn't get called. The green screen I could have gotten a green screen from anywhere. I ordered from a Black company that makes drapes. So I've spent almost $100,000 building out my studio. That's $100,000 that came from my fan base, largely African American. I do have whites and others who watch my show who give, but it's largely African American, and it's gone to Black business. That's called being intentional. That's how you start. And so if you're not intentional with $1, hell, you're not going to be intentional with 100,000. That's where it starts. Appreciate it. Or what y'all got?
All right, everybody, let's give Roland Martin one more round.
Y'all got a lot of homework.
All right. We have one final presentation for you, Roland. Before I give the floor to.
Hey! All I know is Terry. All I know is, I know damn well. There you go. You are not holding a Dallas Cowboys bag. So let me be real. Let me be real clear. I don't know what y'all about to do. But if this bullshit ass presentation involves a Dallas Cowboys bag, I'm whooping all y'all asses. I hate the Cowboys more than I hate the Klan. Y'all, I want them to go 0-6. It was whose idea? Get out of here. All right.
First of all,
that bag about to be given away.
First of all,
Tell him he in Dallas.
yeah,
Let him know he in Dallas.
first
Let him know he in Dallas.
and we know where he parked.
Now, first of all, we not in Dallas. We in Arlington.
So first of all, I just want to.
So are the Cowboys.
First of all, Brother Martin, I want to thank the Center for African American Studies and the School of Social Work, and the School of Social Work and the Office of Multicultural Affairs. Let's give them a round of applause for having Brother Martin here. And because of this,
I see y'all threw that bag behind y'all.
and because of this, you have attended to see this iconic leader free. So what I want you to do for me is to go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com and make a donation so that he can keep telling the truth and controlling our narrative. Also, I'd like to recognize some of the local people that you need to know. The two that I have here, they're publishers of the Black-owned newspapers here. Cheryl Smith with Texas Metro News, Jill Jordan with Fort Worth Black News. Their papers are outside. Not only do you need to read them, but you need to tell the people that you spend your money with, if they're not advertising, you're not buying, okay? Brother Martin, this gift that he's bringing to you represents all the organizations that you have made historical impact with. Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. I said Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Okay, all right, there you go, thank you. And you came into my life a long time ago, so we've been friends for a lot, but you brought your fried turkey to my city men cook.
Who put some hot sauce in here?
Yeah, and so I put my hot sauce from my grandmother's recipe in there. We got also stuff from the U.S. Virgin Islands because we know that you are a global presence. All right, and we have stuff in there from the newspaper. And we want to thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. That gift is from all of us here in Dallas, all of those organizations inside the Botham Jean Foundation, all of them. They would not make the news and change the landscape in Dallas if you didn't talk about it first.
Appreciate it.
And so that basket represents all the organizations you, I, and all of us represent together. Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, the National Association of Black Journalists, DFW-ABJ, Fort Worth Black News, Texas Metro News, Our Messenger, and Garland Journal. So we are here because one thing that you've done for us, and I say that because we've lost our memory. We cannot tell where we were past slavery. And you have brought your news channel and your news power to show us that we need to regain our memory and we need to restore our ancestral history. And we thank you for what you've done and what you're going to do. And you have us as 100%, you know I'm your #1 fan. Anyway, you have us as 100% to support everything you do and make sure that you continue to do that. So thank you for
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
All right, Roland, at the tail end of our evening here, sir, we need to get a couple of pictures. I know the School of Social Work faculty, we need to get a picture with them. I need the faculty with our Center for African American Studies and our staff.
So anybody want a photo, I'm stay taking photos,
Right,
so don't worry about it.
We won't keep you too much longer, but y'all please.
But y'all
fill
know
out
how
the
we gonna take it,
survey
right?
And hand the survey to the folks at the back. Thank you all for coming out. God bless.
Glad y'all came out. Thanks a bunch. I appreciate it.
I brought you to Chattanooga a couple years ago.
I remember Chattanooga. Yeah. Hold on. It's my Hey, what's going on?
No, sir. Oh, yes, it is.
I need your help. On TV.
Oh, okay.
It's a great film.
Okay, I'll take a look at it. Yeah, I remember they were telling me about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
The coaches love it, the players love it.
All right, I'll take a look at it. All right.
Anyway, man, I just want to say
I appreciate it.
so happy.
Right. Okay, good.
Right.
What's up, baby? You all good?